I'm in the 3D world, boy. See this frying pan? That's where you can touch it and you can smell it. If you can't touch it, you can't smell it. It don't exist. It ain't in 3D.
I've got the clothes, the boots, and the motorcycle, and a couple of houses, and lots of cars. But it's still not enough. I need more.
I always need more. What is going on?
Oh my god, I'm so beautiful. I'm gonna get 1 million likes on Instagram. My life is fulfilled.
No, Alex, you cannot have these thoughts. Politics says you cannot have these thoughts. No, you can't think about that either. Religion says no. Oh, society would not like that thought, Alex. Oh, no, 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 no.
Hello, I am Alexander Quinn, Starseed Navigating the Light, and today we're talking about the third dimension. Let's do this. Hello and welcome back. Today we'll be talking about the third dimension. Now, some of these elements will be coming from my book, which is up and coming. I'm currently speaking to some publishers, so the third dimensional information will be coming directly from there. So this will be a little sneak preview. This video is going to be the first in a sequence of many videos. Today we're covering the third dimension. We'll also be looking at the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth. So we're going to be covering all the details in all of those dimensions, what they look like, starting with the third. Please hit the like button, and if you're new to this channel, subscribe, and if you hit the bell button, then you'll get updates on all the latest videos. Now, don't forget to leave me your comments and your questions. Let me know what you think of the videos, and if there's anything you want me to talk about, I'll happily answer all your questions. I always reply back to all the comments. So please go down, type, and let's communicate. We will use Earth and humankind to cover the experience of this realm, as it will help ground the understanding of consciousness that is experienced in the third dimension. It can accommodate light, but also great darkness. This is why beings and angels often express so much love for us, as they see the struggle we go through in the dualistic light and dark realities of Earth. Enlightenment is hardest to reach in the third dimension, as there are great illusions of separation of spirit and creator in this place. Who is God, and why can't we see him? Perhaps it's a charade. We come to Earth taking on an earthly vessel, and are conditioned early on regards constructs of human structure and society. We forget we are souls from the spirit realm, and often feel lonely at times. Upon awakening to the truths of the universe, souls often find it hardest to leave the third behind, much like an inmate of a prison after many years that have become institutionalized. In turn, there is fear of enlightenment. Souls wishing to stay in their comfort zone have been known to deliberately stay in the closet, not wanting to rock the foundations that have been created over the years or even lifetimes of incarnations. At this point, we begin to adventure into the great unknown of higher vibration without knowing even what it is, transmuting fear into love. As we transmute, we learn much about ourselves regards humanity, and those rose-tinted spectacles are ripped off, so to speak. You begin to see the truth in the Matrix as Neo did in the film, and in turn either distance yourself or educate those mentally who are not awake yet. The third dimension, however, is best explained as the material world of fear. This is a double-edged sword, fear of not having possessions and fear of losing them. It is about accumulating as much as possible in this life and keeping tight control over every aspect of our existence, and the fear of losing that control. In turn, this can create lack of self-worth through fear, which in turn creates lack of trust of others that could take away from us both in the present or the future, creating divide, which in turn is overcompensated by a yearning for more power over others and status, creating a cycle that, left to run by the ego alone, can be destructive to oneself and others. And this is how we define ourselves. We struggle to connect with God and Source, and therefore struggle to connect to all that is in the universe. Early on, we are conditioned to believe death is a dark finality, which in turn creates desperation to achieve all we can in this short life, having been told we live one life, and that is all, with nothing after but our decaying bodies in the ground. Archaic constructs such as religion have been created in this energy, and in turn used as further control historically, or in other words, conform or you will go to hell. In third dimensionality, there is a sense of lack and scarcity, and therefore we must fight for what abundance we can acquire with the belief system that there are only winners and losers, with the winner taking all. The ego can be so protective over our reality, buffering psychological harm, that we lie and do all we can to promote our own beliefs over others while promoting that we are always right. There are dualistic beliefs that men are the strong providers and women are the weaker sex whose role it is to procreate and look after the home. However, as consciousness evolves, the roles begin to balance, especially in the new age of Aquarius, which holds a more feminine era regarding its energies. Added to this problem, we feel we can't be whole as God created us, but can only be fulfilled by another person in our lives without first loving ourselves. For many humans, the only time when masculine and feminine energy fully merge is during sex and sex only, which is why sex is craved so much, becoming the root cause for desire, which in turn is used for deception and influence. Sex sells. The duality of the third pushes the human to lust after sex as a need instead of using it as a tool for sharing love. We fear loving ourselves as this is promoted as being egotistical when the opposite is actually the case. Loving oneself too much creates selfishness, again another duality. Balance is hard to find in the third density. We have to learn to question the ego, which is often running wild with our thoughts, questioning the past and fearing every aspect of what the future holds. The ego constantly needs to know everything that is happening without letting go and living in the present. On the whole, the third dimension is one of low vibrations, acting as a catalyst for separation of self, others, and to God and the Creator and the universe, including sometimes free will. Often the higher self, which is the part of our soul on the other side of the veil, urgently attempts to give us intuitive thought and guidance. However, it is not always able to ground to the human through the thick treacle sludge-like vibrations of the third density, which is especially difficult when our body's spiritual chakra points are blocked or not aligned. Have you ever heard someone say, "I knew the answer to that question, but I didn't go with my instincts. I wish I had"? We lose true sense of self, often drifting through life sometimes in the wrong job or the wrong relationship and not expressing fully who we are or finding our true potentials of self-expressionalism. As we incarnate into the earth vessel with our ego mind increasingly taken over in order to survive, we forget who we are spiritually. As discussed, the Akashic record will carry this data, but it is hard to access this in 3D, and many have no idea it is even there. Often we use our heads and not our hearts through conditioned survival, and in turn the connection to the soul within is blocked. Often when true intuition comes through to us in a flash of light or inspiration, the rational ego mind steps in to use logical rationale, often discrediting what could have been an incredible moment of inspiration or an enlightening idea or path. This in turn shuts us down once more as we then struggle to prove that what we feel, or what we thought, was right or not. In light of all this, we become so confused that we feel that we can only find happiness by external stimulus, by the environment outside of ourselves, ever accepting that 3D illusions are reality, and there is little or no escaping. We see it in others around us and in the way that we live, which confirms this even more. This is not the case unless you are an exceptional being, however, surrounded by other exceptional beings, but for the masses this has become a norm. In turn, we learn to bury questions about ourselves and our true purpose, perhaps who we even really are. Historically, those who dared to question reality and the concrete constructs put in place were discredited, sometimes even labelled insane, or maybe even hopeless dreamers, whilst those around them are secure in their own realities, in shielded delusions and ideas, followed by the masses who are trapped in a system with egos that are programmed early on with false beliefs. Ultimately, we struggle to see the Matrix with its fear-based control, which is hugely beneficial to the rulers of the 3D world, because that way the masses are far more controllable and profitable. Huge amounts of money are made with fear, the pharmaceutical industry, insurance, and others, for example. The fashion industry promotes images of how to look and discredits those that aren't in season or of the time, and so on. Fear leads us to spend our money to fit in and control our fears, adding further to the addictive part of our ego. We must have the new phone, the new shoes, the new car to fit in, not realizing who we are as a personality or a person is far more adequate in many scenarios. We shift all our attention onto material things as it distracts us from who we are and what we're going through. Through all of this, we are like addicts in total dependency at all times. It is not until learning to choose love and love over oneself and others that we begin to break these old paradigms. It is at this point our frequency rises, balancing the ego and using it more as an observational tool and not an object to rule us. Through this, we learn to trust our intuition, listen to our hearts, and spend less time in our heads, and in turn finding true happiness without strings or attachments. It is the balanced soul, not living in duality, that becomes enlightened. The soul that lives in harmony with the big picture, not getting caught up in the small dramas of everyday life. So there we go. That is the how-to in the third dimension, how to operate and how not to operate. Next coming up is the fourth dimension.